And feel free to type in questions in the chat. I'll try to monitor that as we go. Otherwise, there is a time for you to ask all questions at the end and pick up the mic if you would like. All right, so first I wanted to get started with californiacolleges.edu. This is a partnership that we have, our schools have. It's all students with their schools. You have a free access to this site, and it's pretty much a tool to keep everything in one place. So you can keep all your college applications in one place. You can launch financial aid applications as well. You can also take little personalities, surveys, and all of that. So if you don't have an account yet, I do recommend logging in and just trying it all out. I will show you briefly what that looks like. So essentially, when you log in, you'll use your email and you'll link it to our school account, and then you will have access to all of these tools. And once you're in, you won't see my portal, which gets, I get to manage all the other students and staff, but you'll find different tabs like this: college, career, and financial aid. So you'll be able to access the financial aid app. You'll be able to learn all about financial aid, and even kind of look at scholarship opportunities. So if you click on that scholarship link, it will take you to a list of scholarships, links to really big scholarship foundations that you can kind of apply to. And it will give you an overview of all the opportunities out there for college. If you're not sure where you want to go, you can actually use a college search tool and narrow it down. It's kind of amazing. If you're overwhelmed by college, you can actually filter by just, if you want to stay in California, you can select that. If you just want, if you want a specific major, like I only want to study biology, so I want to specifically maybe aquatic biology or even biochemistry, you can select the major that you're interested in and narrow down your college choices. So it makes sense that when you're applying, you're not applying to everything out there. All right, there's only one college with aquatic biology, so that kind of narrows down my choices, but you can really refine it. If you have a specific major, you can refine it that way. If you don't, that's also perfectly fine. We'll also talk about today, we'll talk about being undeclared. When you apply, you can also filter whether you want a 2-year or a 4-year degree. What kind of college are you interested in? A public one, a private one? And if the cost of tuition is important to you, you can also filter that way. So this is a very powerful tool. And when you start filtering, you can really narrow down your college choices. So all of our students has access to this, and you will be able to pretty much log in, and I will share, the slides will be posted all on the counselor website. So you'll be able to follow the directions, you'll be able to sign in and access all of those tools. But I just wanted to kind of plug that in just so that you have access to that. All right. On to the next one. So today we're going to talk about college admissions. So we're going to go over the types of college, the colleges and universities out there, the types of admissions requirements, things that you should consider, to-do lists, depending on what grade you are in, and also additional resources. So there are different types of universities that you will want to look into, and you should know the differences between each and every one of those. So for a 4-year public school, that means, for example, in the state of California, we have the UC system or the CSU system. And those are basically, it stands for University of California or California State University. These schools are public, which means it's typically lower in tuition for residents. So if you live in California, it will be a cheaper option, and admission priority is given to in-state students as well. For 4-year private schools, these schools are like USC, BYU, Harvard, Pepperdine. All of these schools are private 4-year universities. That means tuition is same all across the board for any student. And typically tuition is significantly higher than the public schools. So just keep that in mind if finances is a concern. However, when you have a four-year private school, they tend to have, like, for example, Harvard has a lot of money. They have the largest endowment for a school, a college, and so they can actually offer a lot of scholarships directly to students. So if you see the cost of college is a little bit high, but you still really want to go, I still recommend just apply, talk to their financial aid office, and see how much they're willing to offer you. Sometimes you can even kind of tell them you got accepted to other schools. Are they willing to give you more scholarships? And sometimes they're able to if they have the finances. So don't rule out any of the colleges if you really want to go. And then there's two-year colleges. So for California, we're pretty lucky. We have over 100 community colleges. So some in-state ones, for example, are Butte, Lake Tahoe, Folsom Lake. And these offer certificate programs, associate degrees, and also transfer programs. So at a two-year, you can earn an associate's degree, or you can also choose to transfer to another four-year college if you would like. So these are the different types of colleges and universities out there. Okay, so I kind of wanted to poll the audience. So I did want to ask if, where everyone is interested in going to. So if you are a student, you can either join by the web. So I will type that link if you don't have a phone. If you have a phone, grab it, scan that QR code, or you can visit that site. I just put that link into the chat. So if you visit that website, we will be able to view, thanks for posting that. So we'll be able to kind of capture where everyone is interested in. So this gives me an idea of who my audience is, where you guys are interested in applying, and then that allows us to kind of maybe steer the conversation a little bit to focus on what everyone else is interested in. And you'll see. All right, so I'll give you guys a minute to scan that QR code or hop on that whole EV site to kind of type in where you want to go. This is your dream school. So just type in one college that you really want to go to. It's okay if you have no idea. You can also type in, I don't know. That's totally fine. Right, and hopefully this will work. And I will be able to see, oops, I need to activate it. All right. I believe I can present. Oh, there we go. Oh, nice. I'm already seeing, okay, let me present. And then as you're typing in, we'll be able to see where everyone is interested in going to college. So it will kind of put all the keywords in as you're typing. So I'm seeing a lot of Sacramento. If I have a question in the chat, what if you want to go to a dance school? Pop that name of the dance school in too. We're going to talk about every single type of university out there today. It will be a very general discussion about college applications. This is great. Thank you guys for populating everything. Probably. That's somewhere. I like the responses. We're somewhere, probably. That's good. That is definitely true. Welding school, that's awesome. Sierra, Sacramento, Idaho. Oh, these are awesome. Thank you. Oh, I think people are typing in no clue. That's also fine. Wildlife. Very cool. All right. Thank you so much for sharing all that information. Oh, this is awesome. All right. I'm getting a better idea of where everyone else wants to go. I think there's a lot of I don't know and not sure yet, which is totally fine. And that's why you're here. We're going to kind of figure all of that out. College applications are not due yet, luckily. So we can kind of figure out where and kind of what type of college you are all interested in. So there's a few types of admission. that you need to know about. So early action. Early action means you are submitting now. October and November is when all of your applications for early action is submitted. Students are actually notified very early, mid-December, and this admission is non-binding. What that means is you are applying to a school when you have a dream school, but you want to keep all your options open. So for example, if you really want to go to like Stanford, for example, and you know that that is the school you want to go into, but you also want to see if you get into other schools, what their financial aid option is, you would apply early action. It's basically letting the school know that you're very interested, and if they accept you, it's a very high chance that you will go. Early decision is very similar in that you apply early. So you apply now in October and November, and students are, again, notified mid-December. So you find out whether you got into that college very early on, and admission is binding. This is the biggest difference between early action and early decision. Early decision means if you get in, you'll have to go. You have to withdraw your application from all your other schools. It's really great if you have a dream school. So I know someone put in the chat that they want to go to a dance school. So for example, like NYU Tisch has a really amazing performing arts program. That is, if you get in, you are sure that that is where you want to go, and you want to go to New York and you just want to study the arts there. That's fine. And you can actually select early decision. You can apply early, let the school know that if you get in, they are the only school you really want to go to, and that kind of lets them know that you're very interested and you're very motivated. Just keep in mind, the admission decision is binding, so that means you cannot go to any other school. Even if you get in and you change your mind later, it is a binding decision. So that's very big. Regular decision is usually for everyone else who you're not quite sure where you want to apply yet, you don't know where you want to go. So usually students will apply regular decision. That means you submit the application with everyone else during the typical deadline. Students will find out the decision by spring, so usually March, April. And the admission decision is non-binding. That means you get to find out whether you got in and compare every single college and all the financial aid packages, and weigh your decision that way. So it's really good if you're not sure where you want to go, you want to apply to different colleges, several different colleges, and you want to weigh all the options. So that is a really good option. Okay, so I have a great question in the chat of what if you don't get in when you apply to early action, early decision? That's a bummer for sure, but it still leaves the option open of you can still apply to other colleges regular decision. So that means you might not have gotten into the school you really wanted, but it lets you know early on. So you know mid-December whether you got in or not. And so that kind of opens up the opportunity for you to apply to more schools, or even just rethink everything. And we'll talk about that too, of if you don't get into your dream school, what happens? It's not the end of the world, believe me. You can go to a 2-year, decide to transfer. You can maybe take some additional college classes and then apply a little bit later and transfer in, and sometimes that works. So you definitely want to apply to a variety of colleges. You can choose a few colleges to apply to for early action if you're very serious about them. And if you don't get in, you still want to have some other backup schools that you apply to. All right. Is early action decision for CSU, UC, or just private? It is just mostly for private schools. For the CSU, UC, we will go in depth into the application process. There is no early decision for the UCs and CSUs. You kind of have to apply regular decision, but their application is pretty early. So we'll talk about that too. All right. Other types of admission, there is rolling admission. So that means applications are accepted throughout the year until the freshman class is full. So this is kind of nice. So I'm going to go back a slide. If you apply early action, for example, and you find out you did not get into that school, you can start looking for schools with rolling admission that maybe still have spaces left, and you could start applying to other colleges that you're interested in. So there is a large application window, and it's good if you want a quick decision. Usually for rolling admission, they will make a decision pretty quickly. Open enrollment means admission is guaranteed as long as you meet the minimum application requirements. So there is no application window. So typically, for example, like community colleges might have open enrollment. Admission will be guaranteed if you meet the minimum requirements. There's no application window. The only tricky part is there's a lot of popular courses, and because they let a lot of students in, it might be difficult to get into some of those courses. So just keep that in mind. You are competing with other students to try to get into a course. And it's really good as a safety school. So it's kind of nice to have a backup school in case you don't get into any of the other schools you apply to. But again, I recommend really thinking about what kind of schools you want to go to. Are you applying just for the sake of applying? If you apply to that safety school, are you actually going to go? I would say just apply to the schools that you are actually willing to go to. All right. Waitlist. So if the school has more qualified applicants than available spaces, that means you are put on a wait list. You are usually moved off of that wait list around May, and getting off of that wait list is not guaranteed. So just keep that in mind. But if you are waitlisted, it just means they would like to offer you a spot, but they just don't have that spot. So usually if students who have been admitted decide they don't want to go, they'll open up spots for you and you might be able to get in that way. If you are waitlisted for a college, consider applying to a rolling admissions or open enrollment school, maybe applying to something else just as a backup or having a backup ready. But also I would recommend talking to your high school counselor and weighing all the options if you are waitlisted. All right. Okay. Have some more questions in the chat. I already submitted my UC application, which is amazing because that's the application opened October 1st and you're already done, which is awesome. I get to, let's see. Okay, so if you do get into colleges, maybe half of them, you don't necessarily need to apply to additional schools if you're ready to go to the schools you've applied to and you've gotten into. I honestly would recommend applying to schools you really want to go to and having a safety school that you would still go to if you got in, just to have all your options open. And if you're weighing all those decisions, I would look at financial aid for sure. I would try to plan a visit to the campus once you get that notification that you've gotten in, just so you have a feel. Way back when I was making that college decision, I actually visited some of the campuses and it changed my mind. Like I thought I wanted to go to a very small liberal arts school, but it was in the middle of nowhere and there was like no city life around, and the whole school was maybe like 200 kids. It was very small. It was smaller than my high school. So I realized that's not the campus I wanted. And so I ended up going to UCLA because when I went on campus, it just felt right to me for, just what I wanted. I wanted a bigger city. I wanted a college town. And that kind of school gave me that feeling of this is where I belong. So I do recommend visiting schools, looking at what majors they're offering, and also financial aid. I definitely weighed the finances, how much the schools were able to give me in financial aid and scholarships before I made that final decision. It is definitely a discussion with your parents or guardians if they're involved in that decision-making process. And you can always talk with the high school counselor too, to kind of talk about all your options. Ultimately, it is your choice, but you should definitely talk to the adults in your life if you are stuck on where you want to go once you've gotten accepted to everywhere that you've applied to. Okay. Let's see, admission requirements. So these are a few of the basic admission requirements for all college applications. So you do need to request a high school transcript, and we have official links on each of our school websites. So if you would like to request official transcripts, depending on your school, you will have an official link, and all you have to do is click that link and fill out the request. We will send official transcripts directly to you or directly to or directly to your schools. So every time you apply, you will have to send, if you are admitted, you will have to send official transcripts directly to the school because they will need to verify your grades. They will need to verify all the courses that you've taken. So you do need to send official transcripts directly to the college once they've accepted you and once you have accepted their offer. Minimum requirements, every school will have minimum requirements and they will differ. So just keep that in mind. So for example, the UCs and CSUs have minimum course requirements, and the minimum just means you can apply to the college, but it doesn't mean you'll get in. Sometimes the minimum requirements, you want to go above and beyond that. So double check every college you want to apply to, because those requirements will change. Typically, most schools will require 4 years of English, 2 or 3 years of math, 2 years of science. Sometimes they'll recommend 3 years of science, 2 years of history. So many of the four-year colleges out there will actually have the same or similar requirements to the UC and CSU system. So just keep in mind, you want to double check all of those course requirements and make sure that you're taking all of the high school classes you need to right now to make sure that you're eligible. You'll also have to have a minimum GPA. Most colleges will have a minimum GPA. And again, minimum GPA is the minimum. It doesn't mean you'll automatically get in if you have that minimum. Just most schools will have that. So always try your best to maintain that high GPA if you can. If not, we will talk about now the personal statement. That this is where you get to kind of fill in the blanks on your application. So for example, you're plugging your GPA, you're telling the school all of the courses you've gotten into. Maybe in 9th grade, you had a really bad year. You failed all your classes, for example. Maybe that's the situation. Your personal statement is where you can actually explain that. The personal statement is a way for you to let colleges and universities get to know you beyond academics, beyond what's on the paper. So maybe you have bad grades, you want to explain it in a personal statement, you can. If you do a lot of volunteer work, if you have a lot of extracurriculars, if you're very involved in your community, or you're passionate about art or dance, and you spend a lot of time outside of school pursuing those interests, you want to share that in your personal statement. This is how the college will get to know you without just looking at like the standard, GPA and transcript. Every college will have different prompts. So you might have to write a full essay, personal statement, or they just might have short questions for you to answer. I always recommend that students prepare a very general personal statement. So you want to write a pretty generic one. And then for each college you apply to, each major, kind of tailor it. Make sure that it's a little bit more personalized. So if there is a program you really want to get into, take your general personal statement and kind of refine it so that you're really talking to that specific college. Letters of recommendation. Not all schools require a letter of recommendation. But just make sure that if they do, that you need a letter of rec, and also reach out to the people in your life that you want a letter from in advance. I will tell you, I've gotten requests for letters last minute, and those letters were not very good. I still wrote one, but they were not the best letters. I usually have a generic one ready to go, but if I really want to write a strong letter of recommendation, usually I'll have about 2 weeks. So you want to give the person you're asking about 2 weeks to write that letter of rec. What I find helpful is like a brag sheet. If you can write out, things you're interested in, strengths that you want the recommender to highlight, you can tell them that. You can even give them like a resume if you have one, and just have your recommender write something more personal, and give them time and give them a little background information, where you're applying, what your interests are, just so they can personalize that letter. There is also an application fee for every single college application. There are some free ones. So you can also if you're applying and you want to apply to a free one, just because you have everything filled out and ready to go, you can do that. But there is an application fee. If there is a financial need, most colleges will offer a fee waiver as well if you qualify. All right, so throughout this presentation, we're going to have little tips dispersed throughout the presentation. So tip 1, request a unofficial transcript from your high school teacher or your homeschool teacher or your high school counselor when you're ready to complete that college application. You can just send them an email, send them a text, just ask for one, and we can print one out for you, and you will have an electronic version. I highly recommend having the transcript in front of you. One, you want to check for errors. So make sure that all the classes are listed correctly. All the grades you got are also accurately listed. If there's any mistakes, tell your counselor so we can fix it. There usually aren't any mistakes, but I always tell students you have to check. Don't just trust that it's always perfect for you. Make sure you're double checking everything. And then when you apply to college, you want to make sure that transcript is right in front of you. So as you're applying, you're entering every class, every grade that you have taken, and just put that all into the application. Any mistake in your application could delay the admissions process. So if you listed that you got an A in a class, but you actually got a B, that means once that official transcript gets sent in and they find that error, you might have to answer for that error. They might even take back the offer of admission. That's usually rare, but if it's a big enough mistake, they might take that offer back. So you just want to make sure your application is as accurate as possible. It's error-free. Like when you type in your name, make sure your name is typed correctly. Make sure when you're typing your email that your email is one that you use a lot and that it is typed correctly, because they will usually send your acceptance letter through that email. So you want to make sure that you regularly check that email and it's typed out correctly. Just make sure that you have everything in front of you that you need. So have a copy of your transcript ready to go. Okay, so big change for all of you guys. Lucky, kind of, I think, is that standardized tests a lot of them are no longer required for some colleges. So I kind of want to talk about the differences of each. So tests required, that means you still have to take a SAT or SAT, a standardized test, and submit that test score for college admissions purposes. That some colleges still require tests, so just keep that in mind. A few others, like specific majors and competitive programs, might ask students to take a SAT or SAT so that you still have a test score. The more competitive programs might require one just to help kind of pick the best candidate for their school. There's test optional, which means you can decide whether you want to submit a test or not. I know it seems like a trick, like, okay, are you sure you don't want my test score? Are you sure you don't want me to take this test? It's entirely up to you. If you send the test over, they will look at it, but it's optional and it's completely up to you. I recommend for students in this case, only submit scores if you think it's an accurate representation of your ability. If you are a good test taker and you think that test score is representative of how you'll do in college, go ahead and take the test, go ahead and submit that test. But if you are not a strong test taker, I would just leave it off. If it's optional, you don't have to take it. Test blind. So what that means is scores are not even considered part of admissions process. So even if you get a perfect score on the SAT, if your college is test blind, they won't even look at that score. They will not consider it for admissions. What they will consider that score for is course placement and credit. So if you get a perfect score on the SATs, a perfect score in math, perfect score in English, they will take that and they might excuse you from some English classes and some math classes. So that's something to consider. A big change is the UCs and CSU colleges are now test blind. They do not need a test anymore, a test score, which is kind of nice. It puts the pressure off. But a lot of schools are actually going through that trend now where they're going either test optional or test blind. So double check. Make sure that your school, which category they fall into. Figure out whether you need to take the SAT now or if it's okay if you don't have one. There was a question in the chat. Do community colleges require standardized tests? No, they typically do not. They just require a high school diploma. So they don't really need that test score, which is nice. Okay, do you have to wait till your high school to apply to college? You do have to wait till you are in your last year of high school to apply to college. You can actually take a gap year So some students, for example, if you're a senior right now, you're going to graduate in spring 2024, and you kind of just want to take a break from school, you can actually take a gap year and then apply for the following year. If you don't want to go from high school then right into college, you could do that as well, but you would apply as a freshman. But typically most students do apply to college in their last year of high school. So right before they graduate high school, they start applying. So if you're a senior now and you're going to graduate in spring, that means you should be applying right now. You should figure out what schools you want to go to and kind of figure out when those deadlines are for applications and start filling all of those out. All right. Additional requirements. So I had a question in the chat. Do you still need all of these things for a dance school? Kind of. Depends on the dance school. There are some programs where there will be very different requirements, but if it's tied to a college or university, they often will require the same things and more. So for example, I always like to use NYU because I had a student apply. The NYU Tisch School of Arts, very competitive. They require a artistic portfolio or a audition, depending on what they want to major in. So just keep that in mind. Depending on your program, depending on your school, you might have additional, excuse me, requirements. So some schools, for example, Harvard requires an interview, and they will have a alumni. So a former college graduate from Harvard will actually call you and interview you. It's a phone interview. It's kind of informal, but they do require it for all applicants. For the New York school, the Tisch School of Arts, because it's a performing arts school, depending on whether you want to go into film production or dance or any of those arts, you might have to submit a portfolio if you're an artist or a photographer, or you might have to participate in a audition if you're a dancer, for example, or an actor. And you might also require, might also require additional test scores or coursework. So for example, engineering programs might require students to demonstrate additional proficiency in math and science through coursework or test scores. So just keep that in mind. All right, tip 2. So tip 2, each program, major, and college will have different deadlines and requirements. So research. For a lot of you, if you're a senior already, you should probably have a good idea of where you want to apply. If you don't yet, I would recommend going to that californiacolleges.edu site that we talked about and completing a college search, looking at what programs are out there, what you're interested in, where you want to go. And start researching because every single requirement might be a little different. Usually, if you meet the UC and CSU requirements, you will meet the minimum requirements. So usually you're in good shape, and we'll talk about that when I talk about those applications. All right, when you're applying, every single application does cost a lot of money. So to save your parents and guardians a big hole in their wallet, please consider which kind of schools you're applying to. You want to have a safety school. So safety schools are the schools that you'll most definitely get into because your academic credentials are much better. So for example, the average GPA of the freshman class is a 2.0. You have a 3.0. You have a lot of extracurriculars, you have a pretty strong application, and you'll probably get accepted. That's what we would call a safety school. A match school is where your academic credentials fall within the range. So for example, if you're applying to a school where their average GPA is a 3.5 and you have about a 3.6 or 3.4, you're right around that area. That's a match school. It's a good fit for you. The school is looking for students like you, and you are meeting that criteria. So that means it's a match school. It doesn't mean you'll automatically get in. Depending on how many students apply that year, you might not get in, you might get in. It's hard to say. Every year, I will tell you, it's very different. I hear from students where I look at their transcript and I think you're definitely going to get into that school, and they don't. Something happens. The admissions process, I don't know, it doesn't really change, but I think sometimes there's a lot more students who apply that year, and that could be the difference between getting in and not getting in. So match schools, I would select a few match schools. And a reach school is like your dream school where you know it's going to be difficult to get in. So for example, they require the average GPA for their incoming freshman class is like a 4.2 GPA, and you don't have that GPA. It doesn't mean you shouldn't apply. I would still apply. I would apply to a few reach schools, like 1 or 2, because you really want to go and it might be out of your reach, but they're looking for different things. College admissions don't just go off of GPA. They don't just go off of the courses you've taken. They will look at your extracurriculars, look at a strong personal statement. If you have a great audition or an interview, or you have really great letters of recommendation, these will all make a difference as well. So consider applying to a few of safety, match, and reach. So you kind of want to apply to a number of schools where they fall into all of these categories. So just have a variety of schools that you're applying to. All right. Okay. Things to consider. So when you're applying and when you're deciding where you want to go, where you actually want to apply to, location, location, location. I cannot stress this enough. You have to kind of want to go to the school. If you're going to be at a 4-year college for 4 years, you need to kind of like the city. You have to like that area, and you want to be able to explore that area. And so I would think about that. Do you want to be in a small city? Do you want to be in a big city, medium sized? Do you like the college lifestyle? Do you want a lot of frats nearby and sororities nearby? Do you care about nightlife? Do you want to be near a big city? Think about that. And so there's also a student faculty ratio that you want to consider. So do you want to be in a large class where maybe you are 1 student in 500 taking a single class? I kid you not, I was in a lecture hall that seated about 500 kids, and I was 1 in 500. The professor will never know your name. Is that important to you? So do you want a smaller student to faculty ratio? Do you want to be in a class where it's just you, and 20 other students and the professor, so they really get to know you? So do you want a smaller campus? School size, do you want a small campus? Do you want a big campus? Majors offered. So what are you interested in studying? Do you have something really weird like that aquatic biology major where it's only offered in 1 class or in 1 school? Is that important that your school offers the exact major, or are you okay with just studying something similar? Like if you're okay with studying biology, I can guarantee you there's a lot more colleges that offer biology versus aquatic biology. So what are you interested in studying? And if you're not sure, that's okay, but you want to make sure, that maybe you're applying to a school that has a lot of different options for you. So when you do decide, they have that option for you. Types of degree offered. So do you want a 2-year degree? Do you want an associate's, or do you want a 4-year degree, a bachelor's of arts? Do you want to pursue a master's degree? Do you want to get a PhD? Do you want to get a doctorate at the same school? That's also something that you can consider. Amenities and accessibility. So think about the college and whether they offer sports. Is that important to you? Do you want to have an active Greek life? Do you want to join a sorority or a fraternity? Do you want a good gym, a pool on campus? These are all things to consider. You also always want to consider finances. So the tuition cost, how much is it going to be to go? Can you afford that? Do you want to take out student loans? That's something to consider. And also admission rate and graduation rate are important. So these are all things that you want to consider when figuring out whether you want to, what kind of schools you want to apply to. All right. Other things to consider. So undeclared major, I know there's kind of like a stigma of, do you want to, I think undeclared, a lot of people just think, oh, that means you have no idea what you want to study. But that's actually okay. Most people, about 80% of undergraduates actually change their majors at least once while they're in college. So keep that in mind. You can change your major while at college. Obviously, you want to make sure that the major you're changing into is available at that college, but major choices are not binding. You can change majors throughout. I changed majors while I was in college. I thought I was going to be a bio major. I thought I wanted to be a doctor and be pre-med. And then all of a sudden I took a physics class and I said, no, thank you. This is not for me. I don't understand any of this. I can't keep in this, I can't stay in this major. I have to switch. So I went like tears, lots of tears. I called my parents. I had no idea what was going on, like what I was going to do. And then I ended up changing my major and it was totally fine. And guess what? Now I'm in a job that is completely unrelated to my major as well. So things will change. Your major does not dictate what career choice you will have. It's okay to be undeclared. If you are undeclared, it just means you don't have a major. You can study general education courses. So you can take a variety of courses that you're interested in while you're in college. And believe me, there will be something you're interested in. I took a Kung Fu movie class where we watched a movie every other lecture and then we like wrote an essay and discussed that movie. So I took a lot of different classes while at college to kind of figure out what I was interested in, and you'll be able to do the same. So you'll be able to go in as an undeclared major and then decide about 1 or 2 years in what you actually want to study and focus on. Highly selective majors. So this is something you got to keep in mind. There are some really highly selective majors, like nursing is a really tough program to get into. Engineering programs are very popular nowadays. So think about that. Check if there are additional requirements. Sometimes when you are in a selective major, you want to straight away apply. You want to make sure that your application is also a little, like, for example, if you're applying to an engineering program, you want to make sure your application kind of supports that you are taking a lot of math and science classes so that you are ready for that engineering program when you get in. So keep that in mind. There might be additional requirements as well. And there's no gaming the system. I feel like every year I hear like there's rumors where you can take, like you can major in like underwater basket weaving. And because no one applies to that major, you'll get into the school. There's no gaming the system. Admissions people know when you apply and you have no history of interest in underwater basket weaving, they're probably going to know that you're not seriously considering that major, and just know that you can change your major. But when you decide to change your major, the one you want might not be available. It might be hard to get into, or you might not meet the requirements to get into that major anymore. So don't game the system. If you really truly don't know where you want to go or what you want to study yet, just put that in there. Say that you're undeclared. It is okay to be undeclared. All right, tip number 3, make sure your application is accurate. Double check everything. All of the admission decisions are based on self-reported information. So if you lie on an application, they will, if they find out, they will take back that offer. If there are errors, that you can correct those errors to a certain degree, but just know that in serious situations, they might rescind that offer. And any errors might slow down the process for going into college. So just save yourself the headache, double check everything, make sure it's accurate. All right, we have some to-do lists for you. If you're in high school, pretty much, if you're younger, awesome. I'm so glad you're here and listening and being actively engaged in applying to college from a very early start. But in 9th grade, what you want to do is kind of figure out what your potential careers are, what your interests are, what your strengths are. Think about what you want to do after high school and plan out your graduation, your class schedule with your teacher or your high school counselor. Think about extracurricular activities to engage in. If you want to engage in volunteer work, that's really amazing. Meet with your high school counselor for sure. I would schedule a meeting and just talk about your plans. They can help you kind of figure out what those plans are if you're not sure. And in 10th grade, you want to then start considering taking maybe advanced courses if they're a good fit for you. If you're really interested in history, for example, maybe you want to take an advanced level history course. That's something that you want to start planning for in 10th grade. Do research too of, again, try to figure out what you want to do after high school. And It's okay if you don't know what you want to do either. That's totally fine. Continue taking those extracurricular activities and get engaging in volunteer work. If you're not currently doing that, that's totally fine. But just know that even in 12th grade, if you do like volunteer work here and there, it should be meaningful. Anything you do should be meaningful. It should show that you have, you know, if you have leadership skills, or if you have you're able to commit to something long term. So it's really nice to see on an application, for example, if you have volunteered at the same place from 9th grade through 10th grade, all the way to through senior year. It's really nice to see that consistency, especially if it's in something related. So I know there's a younger student in our audience right now who's interested in a dance school after high school. So it's really nice if you are, again, that extracurricular is there in your application, and that you've continued your pursuit of dance all throughout high school on your own. It really shows dedication. It really shows that, you know, if you're performing here and there, it shows that you can handle that pressure. It shows that you have that dedication to one certain thing that you're interested in. So that's really nice on an application as well. In 11th grade, you really want to start to narrow down what colleges, majors you want to consider. And then 11th grade is usually the hardest year, in that you should probably take the most demanding classes. But don't feel like you have to sign up for advanced classes. If you don't think you'll do well, if you're not interested in it, don't take it just because it's advanced. I can tell you, if you earn a C in a college level English class, I would have rather, the college admissions, they would rather see you get an A in a regular English class than a C in an advanced level class. Make sure that if you take an advanced level course, that you are actually interested in studying it and that you can do well. Just because everyone else is taking an advanced level course doesn't mean you have to. Really try to make sure that you are genuinely interested in that subject. And think about if you need to take standardized tests. And again, meet your counselor, meet your high school counselor. They are a wealth of knowledge and they can help you through this process. I would start researching scholarship opportunities too in 11th grade. And in 12th grade, this is when you want to start making your final college application list of where are you applying to. Try to visit some campuses. You don't have to do this before you apply, but after you apply, when you start getting into places, try to visit. If you can't visit physically, go onto their website, the college website, and see if they have a virtual tour. A lot of them do. So just so that you get a feel for the campus and whether it's a good fit for you. Definitely apply, figure out the list of schools you want to apply to. So safety, match, or reach schools. And then complete that college application by the deadline. Those deadlines will vary, so definitely do your research, and complete financial aid and scholarship applications. So for scholarships, you will usually just find them on your own. Don't get senioritis. Definitely keep your grades up. If, again, your grades drop significantly your last semester of high school, that offer of admission could be rescinded. So just keep that in mind. And again, meet your high school counselor. If you haven't figured it out yet, your high school counselor is very important. So tip number 4 is meet with your high school counselor. They can go over any of the plans. If a 4-year college is not for you, they can help you through that too. They can kind of figure out everything with you. So they are here to help customize your high school plan and make sure that you will reach your individual goal. If you don't know what that goal is, they're here to help support you as well. They can tell you how to get to where you need to go after high school. All right, some resources for you. So we have UC admissions and CSU admissions, the Common App, and the CCC Apply. So these links are to the 4 major applications out there. There are different, so for example, some colleges actually you have to apply directly through their website and on their page. But these are the big ones. UC admissions, it's a nice one-time application to all of the UCs in California. So you just have to enter your information one time and you can click on all the campuses you want to send your information to. Same with the CSU application. It's just one application and you send it to all the different campuses. Common App is a big one it has over 900 colleges that participate in the Common App. So you fill that application once and you send it to all the different colleges out there. But again, it will vary. So double check. Some colleges do want you to apply directly to them. So if they're not part of one of these applications, you might have to directly apply to the school itself. And there is CCC Apply, which is the community college app for California. So you can apply through there and send your application to all the different community colleges around. Okay. Figure out which school you are, write down this code, and take a pencil and paper out. When you apply to college, they will ask for a College Board code or a AI code or a seed code. It's referred to as different things, but this helps you look up your high school and connects your application to our high school. So if they need any additional information, they can reach out directly to our school. When we send in a transcript, they can also match it up. So depending on which school you attend, you can just use that code when you're applying to college, or even when you're taking the SAT or ACT. If you're taking a standardized test, they will also ask for this code. And the Clarksville code is 050623. Feather River is 052126. And for Lakeview, it is 053185. So these are all unique codes for each of our schools, and it helps tie that application to everything. When you're applying to the UCs, for example, they will ask for this code so that they can verify all the A through G courses. If you don't know what I just said, don't worry, stick around and we'll go over UC applications and CSU applications. All right. There's some resources for you. Again, you will have access to these slides on the counselor website. They will be posted. So if you do need access to everything, for example, if you want to take the SAT or ACT, you can go through the College Board or ACT directly if you need to take a test. Khan Academy does provide test prep if you're interested. There are checklists for you if you're kind of the organized type and you really like to check through a list. These checklists, for example, if you're a senior, they will have a checklist of what you want to do during the fall, winter, and spring to prepare. So it will go over when you want to complete everything and you can check them off. There's also a college application checklist, so you can kind of keep everything organized, whether you've applied and sent everything in and gathered all of your information. So these are just some resources you can use or not use. It's up to you. Tip number 5, you are applying as a freshman. If you've taken a college course during high school, that's really awesome. Doesn't matter, you're still a freshman. You are all freshmen when you apply. So even if you've earned an AA while in high school because you've taken so many college courses, you are still a freshman. So make sure you apply as a freshman and not a transfer student. You are not a transfer student, you're a freshman. So just keep that in mind. That's tip number 5. Because the slide is here, you know that that happened to one of our students in the past, and we had to talk to the CSU. We had to talk a long time with admissions and correct that information. So it held up the admissions process. So just make sure you apply as a freshman. All right. Other things, financial aid. We will have one of these workshops just for financial aid. So we will go through that financial aid application with you. And there are also different scholarship tools that you can utilize. And again, that californiacolleges.edu site that we went over, they also have links to scholarship for you. One more time, I'm going to plug this every single time. Go ahead and log in, create an account, and you can use this for researching careers, researching colleges, and applying to scholarships as well. So just follow the directions, and I will pop this in the chat as well. This is a very cool animated chat for all of you guys for creating an account. So if you have not already created an account, and you can kind of help figure out what colleges you still want to apply to. It's a really powerful college search tool. All right, do not procrastinate. Do not wait till the last minute. I promise you, if you get stuck somewhere in your application and you need help right away, we'll help you, definitely. But if it's like due, for example, we've had students where the application was due on November 30th and they contacted us for help on November 29th. It's really hard to help you through the application when there's only one day left before we have to submit everything. So do not procrastinate. Make sure you submit everything well before the deadline. You don't know what could go wrong. For example, we've had power outages and students who weren't able to submit their application on time. There's been wildfires. If you live in California, you know about all of those wildfires. They do interfere for sure with the application, so you don't want to wait in case there is wildfires again. So just keep that in mind. And our school is closed for the week of Thanksgiving. So if your application is due at the end of that week, we're not answering emails or calls. If you might be lucky and you might be able to reach out to your teacher or your counselor and we might help. But if I'm cooking Thanksgiving dinner, I'm probably not going to help you with your application. So don't wait. I will gladly help you before then, but just keep in mind our school is off during that break. So if you do need help, it'll be hard to reach someone. So just keep that in mind. Do not procrastinate. And there is an exit ticket too. So if you don't mind, I would love if you are able to fill out the exit ticket for me, just so that I know that you attended. And if you can, under additional questions, I would love if you add what college you're interested in applying to. Our high school counselors do see these responses, so it kind of gives us an idea of where you're interested in. And if you want to apply, then we can also help support, maybe look up that application, kind of give you additional guidance on that application process. All right, if you are able to fill that exit ticket out. So this concludes our first half. So I told you it was going to be a long meeting. It's already been an hour. So if you have any questions, go ahead and ask right now in the chat, or pick up the mic if you have a generic college admissions questions. If you're able to, I'm going to give you like a little break. Go ahead and stretch your legs, go to the bathroom if you need. But at 2:07, I'll start everything back up, and I will actually continue and talk about UC and CSU applications. So we're going to keep going and talk about specifically applying to the UC and CSUs. If you're not interested in applying to those schools, you can just leave. That's totally fine. Also, I will be recording this, so it will be posted onto our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to watch just the UC and CSU portion if you're interested. So if you want, please pick up the mic, type in the chat, and ask the question about college admissions if you would like. Otherwise, we'll just stick around until 2:07, and we'll talk about college admissions